The Sonicware ELZ-1 Play, or the ELZ-1 Play, has just received a massive update which brings with it a full wavetable oscillator, and that comes with a selection of the original classic Waldorf wavetables, as well as the ability to import Serum wavetables, which means there's literally thousands you can pick from online. It also now allows us to layer up to 3 oscillators, which completely opens up the synth engine into something much deeper. You can layer 3 completely different oscillator types. So now it's a polysynth with 18 oscillator types where you can mix and match 3 of them at once. So a wavetable mixed with supersaws and virtual analogs, for example. And they've also added some more effects, some granular effects, a new reverb, a formant filter and a compressor. Plus this, it's a home screen for browsing your presets, and that was something that was missing in V1, and it's nice to have here, but it also allows you to balance the volume of the stacked layers. That's what those 3 circles are on the bottom of the screen. And they're not finished yet. The update comes with a free download of the LE version of the Waldorf Edition 2. And if you've never seen the ELZ-1 Play before, it's a portable synth with built-in speakers, but pro connections for MIDI, sync, 6.53mm jack outputs, USB-C, stereo aux in, and as I said, it's got 18 oscillator types, including a drum engine. It's got a sequencer, arpeggiator, a 4-track looper, and velocity-sensitive keys. And it's a great little ideas machine with some unique oscillator types. And once you understand how to use it, we've got oscillators, the amp envelope, filter, effects settings, sequencer, a mixer, and you change the values using the knobs and move through the parameters using the up and down buttons. There's nothing to it really, and I did make a full breakdown and walkthrough not long after it was released, so I'll put a link for that in the description if you want to take a look. So in this, I'll take a look at the new functions, the V2 functions, and I'll just start off with this home page because, as I say, it wasn't strictly necessary before, but it is nice to have one. You can see along the bottom here, we've got the 3 levels of the 3 tones that it's playing, or the 3 oscillators. It's playing 3 standard oscillators at the minute. It's really nice, that, isn't it? And we flick through the different banks using the looper buttons there. Well, they're not the looper buttons until you're in loop mode, but bank A, bank B. But if we come back here, there's more of the stacked presets in bank A. Again, got a custom oscillator here, a wavetable oscillator and an FM synth. So just listen to the FM. Oops, just listen to the wavetable. And then the custom oscillator. So yeah, it's just a really nice addition to the whole thing, this. It makes it feel much more pro for some weird reason. And I do like all these new sounds you can get from it. So that's the new home page, and you get to it from any other page by hitting memory twice. Let's move over to the oscillators then now, onto this new wavetable oscillator. In fact, I will load a new patch. We can still do the old thing where we go into memory, or we can come back to here, whoops, press it again, and go to 3, and let's scroll back to this. That's one I've changed. I really should learn to rename the presets when I'm making them. Okay, this is an initial patch. So come back to the oscillator, hit the oscillator button, and we can see we're in the wavetable oscillator here. We can see we've got the little Waldorf sign at the bottom there, and that's because the first few are original Waldorf wavetables that come from things like the PPG and the Microwave. And if you don't know what a wavetable is, it's almost like a sample that's been chopped up into individual waves. So as you scroll through the waves, you're changing the tone. So that could do things like someone just twisting a knob, or if you do something like put this onto an LFO, you can get nice little effects. I'll just show you that quickly. So come down to the modulation, put the modulation onto an LFO. It's going very quick, so let's slow that down. Drop the depth a bit. So it's almost like a delay effect on this one. I'll just add a little bit more release to that. But of course, they're all different sounds, like different samples. So let's come back up and change the waves. Let's put this onto an envelope now, actually. And then let's just add a bit of decay. Bring the sustain down. I'm trying to make it so that it drops through the waves. There we go. Take that decay down a bit more. Drop the depth. There we go. Now let's change the wave position. Drop that down because the starting wave's really high. So let's come down to this. Now when we add the depth, we'll go through the whole wavetable. Obviously, I'm making it really obvious here. You don't always go through the whole wavetable. You do things a little bit more subtly. Let's take that modulation off for a second. Let's come back up to the waves themselves. We're still on the Waldorf until we get slot 17, and these ones, some of these I've put in myself, and some of them are ones that the update comes with. I think it comes up to slot 40. These are all in the presets. But I've put a few of myself just to show you can put them in yourself. So that's a wavetable from my Voltage Lab 2. Playing with some of the weird waveforming things you can do. And the beauty of wavetables is that it is like a sampler, and it just gives you a whole massive scope of different things you can do. So this, for example, is the Maximus from Analog Solutions, so £30,000 synth, and this is its oscillator going from a saw to a square. If I load this one here, I've done this with a wavetable, if you come to the wavetable itself. So I've used that resonant filter from the Maximus, and I'm moving through with an envelope. So I'm not using the filter on this at all. And if we come into the envelope on there, we can change the decay on that to make it faster or slower. So that's the wavetables and how you use them. Let's take a look at now adding another layer. So we come back into the oscillator menu, hit it again, and we've got this little OK comes up there, and now I've got a second layer. So on that second layer, let's put a super oscillator. Let's put a super saw. So that's that same tone. You can hear the wavetable in there modulating. And the super saw as well. We hit function. We've got access to more of the oscillator parameters, so let's change the level of the super saw. And maybe let's detune it as well. Let's detune the super saw, the pitch of that by, let's add a fifth, so that's 700 cents. There we go. Let's increase the volume on that a bit. And then maybe add a sub as well. So we go back to the oscillator, press it again, okay. Now we're adding a sub. Let's put the sub on as, let's put it just as a standard wave, shall we? Standard oscillator, and let's have it as a triangle. Function and oscillator again. Down on the bottom one, and we want that at minus 1200, which is an octave. There we go. And to swap between the different oscillators, just hit oscillator, so to swap between the different layers. If we come into the filter now, these are in series, you can change it to parallel, but when they're in series, it's like you've got the one filter across the whole tone. So you can't change from layer to layer because they're all using the same. But if you put those in parallel, press function and filter, and now they're in parallel. So let's add filter type on just that one tone. So this is the super saw. It's now got a filter on it. If we change the level of that, actually, it might be easier to hear what's happening. So let's turn that one up. So knob 3. Back into the filter. That's the same for all the parameters. The envelopes at the minute are in series. We could put those in parallel as well. So again, we can see now that we've got a 15 millisecond release on the sawtooth on the super saw, but the others are hanging on for longer. So let's make that one longer. Release. And then the third one has got 15 milliseconds as well. That's the sub. So let's add some release to the sub. So yeah, you can have all of the groups of parameters in series or parallel, which is incredibly complex when you think about it, because they've each got their own modulation sources in there. So you could have different modulations on the different filters and 3 different filters on one patch using 3 different oscillators. And if we want to turn that into a more standard patch and get rid of that wavetable in there, let's turn this into a standard oscillator, and let's put that onto a sawtooth. Let's put the filters back in series. If we come to the memory page or the main page again, we've got a standard oscillator, a super saw, and a standard oscillator. So something like a big old analog polysynth could do. But you couldn't do on this last week. Next up then, we've got a new modulation source. No modulation on the wavetable there. If we put the LFO on, we've heard this before. Giving a lovely little shimmery effect there. And we've got the envelope. You can see that moving through the wavetable. And now we have key track. I'll put it on positive for now. So the lower we are on the keyboard, the lower we are in the wavetable. And we're moving up to the more softer tones. Compare that to This is a lovely way of creating a lot of movement almost within the tone, because you've got different sounds almost within the same tone. And the PPG used to do this with negative key tracking, in that the lower notes played higher up the wavetable and the higher notes played lower down the wavetable. So you've got the option here. And obviously you can change the depth and all that. And that also works in the filter as well. If we come to the filter section, well, let's pick one first, shall we? Modulation type, key track. Coming into the effects then, we've got new effects in here. We've got, in the drive mod circuit, we've got, where is it? We've got a formant style filter. Different types, like an A or an E. We've got this new reverb down here as well, this mirage. Balance goes between 0, which is like 50%, so minus 53 is none, and plus 63 is 100%. And we've got a low cut on that as well. All the nice little additions to the effects are this oscillator. This is a bit like a bandpass filter or something, so frequency is changing what frequency it's looking at almost. And the B knob here is sort of changing what it does with that frequency, how much you hear in it, how much it's pulled out. So I'm seeing that as a bandpass, and then when it's on negative, like a notch, something like that anyway. But it's a nice little EQ tool really. We've not quite figured out what it's doing yet. And then we have this master compressor. This is what you might expect. Makes things a bit loud with a high threshold. Drop the threshold. Get a bit quieter. Attack, release, ratio and threshold. All the standard things you'd expect to see on a compressor. And obviously you can use that with the drum oscillator. And I've not tried it yet, but it's worth experimenting with your delay and your reverb going through the master compressor, because that can give you some nice different textures. And then let's just take that off for now. We have these lovely granular effects. Different types. You can adjust the grain size, the timing and the feedback, as well as the mix. So the timing adds more. And the grain's the grain size. Again, I'm overplaying this so you can hear exactly what's happening. Then we've got grain pad. We've got the same controls. Sounds a bit smoother. It's almost like there's a crossfade between the little grains in that, then grain particle. And that's almost like a shimmery grain. So you're raising the octaves, or raising the pitch at least. Making the grains smaller, less timing, so less of them. Really easy to control this. Lots of them, lots of little ones, now lots of big ones. And then we've got this shift down, and that's like the opposite of the last one. It's almost like it's underwater. It's beautiful, isn't it? Oh, they're nice, the long ones. Quite glitchy. Turn them down in the mix. Now I've got this uncertain one. So it's a bit of everything, I think, but it's a bit like particle one. Just another flavour in there. Let's go back to the particle one. Yeah, I haven't quite worked out the difference between those two, but I did mention they were velocity sensitive, didn't I? And another very minor thing that's worth pointing out is we've got a CPU meter bar across the bottom. And if we come into the oscillator, for example, so you've got 0 out of 5 voices being used. We've got 5 available voices. I'm using 4 of them. And if we go to another tone, this has just got 2 oscillators. Got 7 available oscillators with this. And then if we find another one with just a single oscillator, let's go to memory 2, there we go. If we come into the oscillator there, we've got 15 available. Because obviously when you're using more oscillators, you've got less CPU available. But just handy to see it up there on the top right. And there are a couple of other little updates in there as well. I showed these 4 buttons when we were looking at the memory before. So they're nothing to do with the looper anymore when we're in standard mode. They start being part of the looper once you go into looper mode. And it gives you a little warning there about the wavetables taking a little bit longer to load. So if you're not looping anything, come out of looper, really. To come out of the looper, press X. If we want to come out of it, OK to discard. That was just another little thing I noticed while I've been playing around with it. But yeah, there you have it. Sonicware ELZ-1 Play version 2. A huge and absolutely massive welcome update. I think it really does massively open the synth up. The layers are brilliant. I mean, I'm a big Wavetable fan anyway, as you might be able to tell with me loading my own straight away and the ones I've created with old synths. But yeah, having the Wavetables in there gives you just access to so much stuff that's online, all those Serum Wavetables you get anywhere, and then being able to layer them on top of each other is an absolutely, I'd say it's a magnificent update. Very, very, very welcome indeed. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please think about subscribing, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon, all that normal sort of stuff. Also check out my starskycarr.com website. There's patches, the samples, and there's loads of wavetables on there as well. Anyway, thanks very much for staying to the very end. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time.